When automotive historians talk about vehicles that charted a new course in terms of automotive design, many mention the 1961 Lincoln Continental as one amongst just a few that really changed automotive design history for years to come. And it's easy to see why. Take a look at this black 1961 Lincoln Continental and bear in mind what its predecessor looked like. The 1958 to 1960 Lincoln Continental Mark III, IV, and V. After Lincoln had lost almost $600 million in today's terms on those 1958 to 60 models, it was decided that the division had to go in a very different direction. Otherwise, if this vehicle frankly wasn't successful, Lincoln was going to be put out to pasture. And so a few things were changed. This vehicle was still unibody like the 1958 to 60 cars were, but this design was actually a Thunderbird styling proposal that was rejected, and management wanted to see a four-door version of it as a Lincoln, and that's what appeared here. This vehicle also shared its platform with the Thunderbird and became much smaller in size than the 1958 to 60 models, which rode atop a 131-inch wheelbase and measured between 227 and 229 inches in length. This vehicle was 8 inches shorter in wheelbase and 15 inches shorter in overall length. It's hard to call this vehicle small, but by the standards for Lincolns of the time and what Lincoln owners expected, it kind of was. And that required Lincoln to make some changes to the vehicle over its model lifetime. In 1963, they had revised the seat backs to get a little more rear seat legroom, but that really wasn't sufficient to do anything. And so 3 inches were added to the wheelbase in the 1964 model year, primarily to give the vehicle more rear seat legroom. In 1961, as opposed to having numerous models in its lineup from 1958 to 60, including the Premier and the Continental and the Capri, Lincoln just had this Continental, and it came in two forms: the four-door sedan that you see here with suicide doors, or the four-door convertible. The four-door sedan had a list price of about the equivalent of $60,000 in today's terms, and the Continental convertible had a list price of about $65,000 in today's terms. So these were not cheap automobiles back in the day, and you had to be someone of means to afford them, especially because they didn't have 84-month financing back then. You really were financing over 3-4 years at best. Another interesting fact about this 1961 Continental is that it was, I believe, one of the first vehicles, if not the first vehicle, to have a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty that came with it. Remember, at this time, most vehicles came with a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty, or even less in some cases. So this was quite rare and reflected that Ford Motor Company really wanted to stand behind this product. And you can see as we return to the front here, just this beautiful styling that is absolutely minimalist overall. There is very little adornments on this vehicle. There are, of course, fender peak moldings and large chrome bumpers, but the body side there is really not much. It's just relatively straight section, but absolutely beautiful in terms of the overall proportions of the car. And I mean, look at this front end. Just a great looking vehicle. And there are many strange and interesting features of the 61 Continentals, one of which is the reverse opening hood. It doesn't open from the front of the vehicle, it opens back by the windshield. Ford had done that for a number of years before, though, and the thought was that you'd have to pop the hood and then go over to the passenger side to unlatch it, and that was more of a safety thing to get you away from the road. It was something that some buyers, I don't think, cared for, but Ford did it for a number of years and had done it on the previous Continentals as well. You'll also notice that the wipers on this vehicle have a reverse wiping pattern from the normal American design, and it's not quite clear to me why Ford did this. Some speculate that they used a carryover part from a European division for the wiper transmission, as well as that little panel in front of the hood, but I'm not quite sure. If anybody knows, feel free to let me know. Another interesting feature on the convertible models is that when you open the rear door, the glass is automatically set to drop about 2 to 3 inches to clear the convertible top. And when you close the door, it automatically goes up. Something that many cars do today. When you open the door, the glass drops slightly, and then when you close it, it returns back up just to release the pressure inside and make the door easier to close. But this was something that was very novel for the time, and I don't believe was on any other vehicle of this time period. Another fun fact about the 61 to 65 convertibles, at least, is that they only have a single pump in the passenger side rear quarter panel that operates both the deck lid and the convertible top mechanism, and there's a solenoid valve that switches the pump in terms of where the hydraulic fluid goes, which, by the way, is automatic transmission fluid. In the 1966 and later models, they went to two pumps, one that would operate the deck lid for the convertible top mechanism and another that would operate the convertible top. As the years would go by, in 1966, Lincoln would introduce automatic climate control to its buyers. Cadillac had introduced it in 1964, so Lincoln was a bit late there. And the 1966 system really wasn't all that great. It was so bad, in fact, let's say, that in 1967, all of the 1966 automatic temperature-controlled Lincolns were recalled to be retrofitted with the 1967 system, which was much more simple. In any event, I digress in talking about this beautiful 1961 vehicle, but why not learn a little bit more about the Lincoln Continental history in its lifetime as you're watching the video? Let's take a look on the inside of this vehicle. And here we have one of the most beautiful and elegant mid-century modern-esque interiors ever put in a vehicle. This beautiful twin cockpit design, kind of similar to the Chevy Corvettes, very sporty. I love that center stack there with the vents that are these finned vanes. Just a beautiful, elegant touch, and that is real California walnut veneer on the doors as well as the instrument panel. And it comes in this car, you have black and white leather, both front and rear. You can see the legroom isn't all that great in the back. That wasn't that great for the time period, and this is one of the reasons that I mentioned that the vehicle would get elongated in 1964 by 3 inches to give a little bit more rear seat legroom, and they would redesign the seat backs in 1963 to try to do the same. Let's take a look on the other side from the driver's standpoint. And I think a beautifully simplistic instrument panel, but one that has all of the relevant functional readouts, including a temperature gauge and a fuel gauge. So it didn't just have idiot lights, and of course you have the clock off to the right. But I just think that the overall look of this interior is so fresh and modern and minimalist, just like the interior. It's one of those times where the interior kind of talks to the exterior on one of these classic vehicles, which is amazing because the designers didn't really talk to themselves often. Even that dome light has a beautiful Lincoln logo in it. There are also some interesting exterior features. Take a look here and you can see that there's a key guard. You have to rotate out of the way in order to put the key in the hole to unlock the door. And of course you have the suicide doors themselves, which was a pretty rare feature during that time period. Here's this strange wiper wiping pattern that I mentioned before. And again, not quite sure why Lincoln did this. And you can also see that little panel where the wipers come out of is relatively small. And perhaps it's a part that was carried over from another vehicle. In any case, hope you enjoyed this look at this beautiful 1961 Lincoln Continental sedan. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And check out the video thumbnails at bottom left and right for some suggestions for you. Thanks again for watching.